Hello and welcome back, my friends, to the Pretty Passionate Podcast, your favorite group chat where we dive deep into topics that we are passionate about. You know, whatever's on our minds. I know I had promised you guys a bonus episode to wrap up Sirens, the Netflix series that I fell into, and episodes 1 through 3 I enjoyed. Actually, 1 and 2 I enjoyed and we covered, and they were great. And then a whole bunch of other stuff started happening that I felt took precedence over covering that, since it was a little bit of an older show anyway. And so I promised y'all a bonus episode, so a bonus episode you shall have. Today, a couple of things, just quick life update. It's our anniversary this week. My wedding anniversary, that is. We are celebrating 9 years of wedded bliss, truly. And my husband Quentin and I, our personalities are so well matched in so many ways. And I just literally thank God that I found him, because I'm going to be honest with you, the stories I hear from my single friends, whew, I want nothing to do with that. But even if dating was not ghetto in this day and age, I would be very happy to be married to my husband of 9 years, the father of my beautiful babies, and, you know, just my partner in crime, my favorite person to watch alien and zombie movies and shows and Marvel and DC nonsense with in the whole entire world. You know how they say you got to find yourself someone who you enjoy doing like the fun stuff with? Sure, like the trips and the yachts and whatever glamour, but also someone you enjoy doing absolutely nothing with. I literally knew he was the one because we had a blast at his apartment back in Queens, where we met, watching HGTV and eating delivery Italian food. That was just great times for me. Should have been an indicator. First of all, it included some of my favorite things: interior design and home renovations and Italian food. Did I ever tell you guys how we met? We actually met on Match.com. I know, actually, yes, I did mention this on an earlier episode, that we met on Match.com, and at the time it was kind of taboo. I had a residency, co-resident who, he was getting married, and he was talking about planning his wedding and everything, and the wedding was coming up soon, and all of us would be guests at this wedding, and it was a beautiful ceremony and everything. And he shared that he'd met his fiance on Match, which was shocking to me at the time, because this was 2012 and normals weren't really meeting online that heavy. You know, we were still meeting at the club, especially in the New York area. There's so much clubbing and lounging you could be doing every single weekend. And then if you weren't really hardcore B&T people, you were going in the city during the week on Tuesdays and having a good old time in the club. And anyway, it was weird back then, or something to kind of not share with every single person. But now I'm happy to tell people and happy to let people know that that actually worked for me, because it allowed me to sift through a lot of things. Not to be too harshly judgmental, of course, you get the photographs so you can see if there's any kind of chemistry there physically, which is undeniably important, but not the most important thing. For me, it was also being able to see that they're not a smoker, that they're not a cat lover, because I'm allergic to cats, and cigarette smoke, very irritating to my sinuses and everything. And yeah, I mean, and what profession they are, what they're into, are they Christian, stuff that just takes a long time to sift through, and you can't get that information at a club. So for the millionth time, I'm going to go ahead and give an endorsement to online dating, because we are proof that online dating works. So on the topic of dating, I came across something interesting on Threads. I had just covered all of Love is Blind UK season 2 and really enjoyed that. So I guess I've been cueing my algorithm to believe that I'm interested in modern dating topics. But anyway, up on Threads, Daddy Algorithm showed me some pretty interesting and hotly debated discussions going on regarding some modern day dating stuff. And you've probably heard of this if you are in the same rabbit holes that I am on Threads and Instagram and whatnot. It's about what constitutes a proper date. Okay. So a few weeks back, maybe this was a month or so ago, there was this coffee date lady that, goodness gracious, in summary, this woman was supposed to be going out with someone I guess she had met online. And at the end of the day, he proposed a coffee date for them, and she politely declined. And then on her TikTok or on her social media, then proceeded to go to a coffee shop and actually, treat herself to a nice and overpriced cup of coffee, and kind of made the statement that, I'm not a coffee dating kind of girl. Now, this set off a hot debate about the fact that she was not interested in a coffee date, and it made me laugh because I was like, did she say something wrong? But, when this question's posed to the masses, it feels like people fall into two really like distinct camps. Like, are you totally okay with coffee dates? I'm meeting and asking a lot of the younger single people that I work around, typically like the nurses and the scrub techs and stuff like that at the hospital. And they're okay with it. They're okay with it on a level. I think it might be generational, who is going to feel a little disrespected by that offer and who just feels like it depends on the circumstances. I think most people agree that like meeting at Starbucks is kind of very low level, like not high effort date. One nurse I worked with at the hospital actually explained to me that if the potential date was going to happen at like a specialty coffee shop, she's a coffee drinker. So this was very relevant to her. She was like, I really love coffee. So if it was going to take place at a coffee shop maybe I had expressed interest in, or one that's in my neighborhood, or one that was known for really great specialty drinks or pastries or something, then she would not look down on it. And then there's the diametric opposite of people who I spoke to, typically like young millennials-ish and older, who were like, absolutely not. I'm worth more than a cup of coffee. So, I grew up in the era where the answer was absolutely no. If he's interested and he respects you, it's like dinner plus, like dinner in a movie or dinner in a show or something. And if he was that pressed for dinner, then he's probably not prepared to be in a real relationship or a relationship that's headed somewhere. That was the thinking, at least in the early aughts. And also the thinking behind that is that if he's also like financially stable but unable to commit to that level of date, then he's probably trying to date a bunch of women at the same time, which is creating financial strain. So, one of the two. But, it is, in the year of our Lord 2025, a rough economy. And people are struggling. The cost of eggs is not going down. Good grief. A carton of 12 organic eggs the other day that I purchased at Publix was $12. Okay. So that said, in an economy where 12 eggs cost $12, is this just pragmatism to say, hey, I don't know you. I don't really know anything about you. How do I know I want to invest in time with you right now? Another nurse chimed in and was like, I would go on the coffee date because she's been on that kind of date and it's turned into, okay, coffee. And then they actually continue hanging out for the rest of the evening. And that actually led to dinner, etc. Or they kind of just took it from the coffee date to something else, more fun. So I guess both of them had their calendar open in the evening. And I was like, okay, it's coming together for me a little better. But I guess like with my schedule as well, like, still not for me. But thankfully, I'm not in that pool. So I can't speak for y'all. And I haven't been in the pool in a long time. But I also want, I think, as somebody who is a little more old-fashioned, I want young women to do a good job of setting standards for themselves. As in, not accepting just whatever. If you are okay with a coffee date, like that nurse I cited earlier, like, set some standards for what kind of coffee date you're okay with. If you're not okay with it, simply don't be okay with it and don't go on that date, And the other thing that came up was a couple of I didn't ask actually any men. So the couple of the women I spoke to about this were saying, I like the idea of a coffee date because it gives me the flexibility of if it's going left or if it's just not going well, I don't have to feel guilty about the fact that it's going to end. Like, it gives me an out. I don't have to continue the date. I can go on my way. He can go on his way. No harm, no foul. And at first I was like, okay. But when I thought about that, it kind of raised a more concerning aspect of dating for me, which is why, even if we are at Chops and we are like, elbows deep in some delicious steak. If the date goes left, the date goes left. And you should feel free to leave or excuse yourself from the presence of a person who is making you uncomfortable. Is just my 2 cents. Like, just because someone's treating you to lobster and steak doesn't mean they get to treat you any old kind of way. What is fancy, by the way? I just mentioned chops as an aside. Please don't come for my throat. I know some people's version of a fancy date is more like Applebee's, and that's cool as well. But I was just mentioning that in for the purposes of bringing up, like, if someone takes you somewhere real high end, you still are not, you don't owe them anything, number one, at the end of that night, and you do not owe them your continued presence if they're making you uncomfortable. So I guess, like, in summary, nobody's wrong, right? Per se. I don't think. I mean, what's clear is, like, there's just, like, 2 different camps on this, or kind of people who believe it's either offensive and it's an absolute no, like the woman who posted. And there were plenty of people in her, comments and people who remixed or reposted her original content and agreed completely with her. And then there were people in the polar opposite camp. So it's clear that at the end of the day, you're going to believe what you believe about this kind of thing. And it's just important to try your best to find people who are aligned with you on a lot of these subjects. And you can figure that out pretty quickly. I mean, if you're talking to somebody and they're just like, very focusing a lot on schedule, budget, etc. early on in the conversation, you could probably guess that they're not going to take you to a 4-hour boozy brunch, whatever. But this is where, again, I feel like online dating is so helpful because you can have some of these conversations very frankly, very early on. And this can happen by text. Although I think, hold on. I think with online dating, I will say, I think it is important to eventually start to talk on the phone. And the talking on the phone, depending on the flavor of the person, you're speaking to, it should happen to me before you bother to meet someone in person. Because if I can't have a conversation with you over the phone after I've been texting back and forth with you or whatever, and establish at least some kind of banter over the phone, and for me, it was also very important that you have conversation skills. I'm a talker. Duh. So I could never, ever, ever, even if he was like fine, I could never date a guy who's just like cute, but has like no conversation. That just wouldn't work for me. I feel like I discovered that I was watching Kings of the Court on Bravo, on, I guess, Peacock. And it's something I think I discovered about Tyson Beckford. No shade. Love you, Tyson. You're an icon. But, oof. Some of the dating that he was doing on the show, if you're familiar, like, I was like, ooh, I would not actually go on a second date with him. I don't think I'm his type. But the point is, someone like that, he's so cute, you build him up and you think it's going to be great. And then you actually try to talk to them and it's like nails on the chalkboard. So I don't think anyone's wrong in the style of dating they choose to engage in, but I think it is wrong, though, to try and crucify someone who disagrees with your opinion and try to sway them over to your way of thinking. I think you should take that energy and try to find someone who thinks like you and wants to date like you. Just like, Neo, or someone like who has like polyamory is on the menu. Why are you wasting your time trying to convince monogamous people to be polyamorous? Just go find other poly people and be happy, right? Okay. So the second thing that came up on my radar on Threads regarding dating was a scenario where a woman was getting ready for her date. She's hair done, nails done, everything did. She's done getting dressed and she receives a text from this guy. And it says, and I'm going to put a little screenshot of this in the video version. I know I planned to take you out, but bills really got the best of me this month. On top of that, I had to help my kid mom with her car note. I have salmon in the oven and was wondering if you could stop and grab a bottle of wine and we just chill here at my place tonight. So the thread was asking, how would y'all feel? Or how would you respond? Okay, couple of things. Okay. I don't know. I think context is necessary. Do we know? how long they've been dating, how well they know each other. Because, first couple of dates, I don't want to go to your house and eat salmon. I don't. I don't know you that well. I'm not going to anybody's house to prepare food and eat it there. I think I'd rather do a coffee date than do that. But, that was thing one that stood out to me. How well do they know each other that this would even be a thing and wouldn't be awkward or make her feel uncomfortable? And then thing two is timing of this is kind of rude. I think we know we are supposed to meet at 8:30. If at 8 o'clock you're texting me this, it's upsetting. It's upsetting because the bills didn't start billing at 8 o'clock. The bills have been, you said, this month billing. So why are you just now discovering it and just now, more importantly, not discovering it, but just now getting the balls up to send a text to say, hey, I don't think I can swing dinner tonight. The one thing I will give some credit for is the fact that he presumably is being totally honest and vulnerable here and telling the truth about the situation and not trying to come up with some other untrue reason to cancel, right? So there, I said something positive. However, in this run-on sentence, to me is, I don't know who this woman is and what her circumstances are, what her dating experiences is, but there are a lot of reasons to just no longer see this person. I feel like he just basically told you that he is not in a position to seriously focus on a new relationship. He has bills that he is not on top of. They're on top of him. And in addition to that, he has a child's mother who is somehow financially dependent on him. It's one thing to co-parent with someone. It's another for them to rely on you for emergency situations. Because that child's mother that he's no longer with, what I'm reading is that she doesn't have, family and friends she can ask for a little money to help with her car note, that she is struggling financially. She's very tight to where an emergency or two puts her out of being able to pay her car note on her own. And then she also doesn't have a credit card to rely on in that situation, and hey, brokenness, we've all been there. Very well acquainted with the state of having not enough, right? Having more bills than money. I was a resident. I don't know if y'all know how things get for residents. Maybe one day we'll talk about it. But that said, it's clear that his focus right now shouldn't even be dating, in my opinion. If this was my son, I'd be like, honey, what you need to be doing is hustling. You don't need to be seeking out companionship just yet. You need to be hustling and nose to the grindstone, getting to a point where you're not being set back so much by unexpected expenses, because the average person in America definitely doesn't have enough in their savings account to account for a missed paycheck or unexpected medical bills, etc. And so, not saying those people don't deserve to date, but I think either you put the dating on hold until you feel like you're on stronger financial footing, or you set expectations right up front. This is similar to the coffee date people. Set that expectation and you will not have people who have a different expectation for how the relationship is going to go, what the dates are going to look like, and what being with you is going to be like, from the jump, kind of make it out that you're here to date, but you're on a budget. And so it's going to be house dates and Netflix and chill and not much else. That way you're not also dealing with the last minute disappointment. That would be my advice for the young man. And for the woman, I would say set your standard now and set it early and set it firm. Full stop. That's I have no negative judgment. If she wanted to give him a chance, maybe she's already spent some time with him and he knows that he's worth the time investment, and maybe this really is a temporary situation. Based on the text, it doesn't sound all that temporary, but we make these decisions, when we're in love or falling in love. We don't always think clearly. So, and this is also one of those things where I'm not 100% sure these are real people so much as someone just positioning a question as if it was coming from real people. But to each their own. Definitely every single woman that I questioned about this gave an absolutely not. I would not go over his house, and I would probably not talk to him again. All of this talk about dating and relationships feeds well into episode 3 of our main topic, Sirens, Netflix's Sirens, We are focusing today on it's one season. It's a Netflix series, episode 3, entitled Monster. Okay. So dating and love triangles and the intricacies of falling in love, romance, and marriage comes up in this series. If you're already in with me, episodes 1 and 2, episode 3 was one of those. It throws you for a loop. A lot happened. I feel like 1 and 2 were kind of like boiling up, and there were mysteries set up. What's up with Michaela? What's up with Peter? Kind of things like that. Why is Simone estranged? Why is Simone estranged from her family? All those mysteries are kind of set up, and they're beginning to pay off a little bit or crescendo in episode 3. So, episode 3. So if you remember at the end of episode 2, Michaela... Kiki has found out that Simone is actually dating Ethan. Remember, she was accusing her of keeping secrets and trying to get her to spill and be more transparent about things. And Simone wasn't telling her because she thought it would be awkward for her to be dating her husband's best friend. Right. So they find out because Jose and his camera sleuthing caught her turning off a security camera and heading in the direction of Ethan's house every night. Not rocket science. So Simone has a panic attack when she realizes Kiki knows. And so we catch up with them at the top of episode 3. Jose and Devin, Simone's older sister, brought her to the guest house to recuperate from the panic attack she just had. Because remember, they found her on the floor in the kitchen. So doing that, she misses a lot of time at work. This is someone who is like Kiki's right arm. Like, to send sext messages to her own husband, Kiki uses her help to make it look like it's a selfie while she like squeezes her boobs up. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So, understandably, she's missing work and frightened about that. So before she wakes up, she has a nightmare, right? Where she's running down those horrifically dangerous looking steps at Kiki's house to the beach. Okay. She's running after Kiki, but when she gets to the bottom of the steps, she actually sees Ethan impaled on a piece of driftwood. Not knowing what that means, she wakes up in a panic and realizing she's missed so much work. She's like all of a sudden in go mode, trying to rush to get to Kiki. Devin at that moment tries to appeal to her and let her know, like, you're having panic attacks because of this job, so you need to quit. And, of course, they get into an argument. Some of the stuff they already argued about is brought up again. But there is some exposition in this conversation because they let us know a little bit more about the past. Simone overall feels that she was abandoned by Devin. And Devin feels like she's given up a lot of her life, her youth, taking care of her and her dad. So taking care of everyone except Devin and Devin's wants and needs. Like, she left college to take care of her. And basically Simone's like, I don't care. I am not helping you out with dad. And she kind of drives home the message that she really is unfeeling towards this man. And it makes me question, like, what could he have done to her to make her care this little about him? And I'm really like nervous at this point because I hope it's not something like horrific, that makes a daughter completely turn her back on her dad. I mean, we all know people. I know people with really not that great father figures, and they're still leaving room for them. They're still holding out hope for them for a good relationship with them, or to at least end their relationship with them at the end of their life, at the end of the father's life, on a good note. So to see her completely just uninterested in him, it kind of signals that whatever happened was pretty bad. Simone then rushes off to find Kiki. She's worried about she's going to get ripped a new one, understandably, just to not show up, not be answering her phone, all that, right? So instead, she's greeted by an eerily calm Kiki. And that's throwing her off. She was expecting the chew out. And instead, Kiki's kind of like, oh, well, I'm glad you're rested. Like, oh, that's great. And then we understand what this demeanor is about because she's being sneaky. She asks Simone a question we have an idea that she already knows the answer to. She asks her about how her mom really died. Simone tells her the horrible truth about her mom, and that is a sad tale. Basically, her mother, warning, discussing suicide here. Basically, her mother put her in a car together with her and put the, exhaust pipe, hoses connected to the exhaust pipe, closed the garage, and was attempting to take her own life. and take Devin with her for some reason. And the crazy thing is that she also still had, to take Simone with her, not Devin. She's trying to take Simone with her. So she takes Simone into the car. And the crazy thing is that she still has a second daughter. She still has Devin in the house. If you don't love the husband, if you're mad at the husband, if he's really a source of your depression and your upsetness, I can't make sense of why she would only take Simone with her. Not that it's an honor for your mom to do that, but you get what I'm saying. Confusing feelings, probably both daughters having very confusing feelings about the whole incident. So anyway, Simone reveals this horrible truth to Kiki, and Kiki feels horrible for her because who wouldn't, hearing this history. She hugs Simone and promises that, you're going to get nothing but good in your life from now on. She has a thing, one could say, Kiki, with the wounded bird. Right? She's got that whole foundation for actual wounded wildlife, birds of prey. And in real life, she really melts and just embraces a wounded bird. This is how Devin even managed to be able to stick around at the Cliff House, is because she appealed to this nature that Kiki has to take wounded things and heal them and make them better and make them love her, I think, and kind of worship her in return for the love and care, So Simone is around that time also trying to find Ethan because he's not responding to her messages. Like, she's trying to let him know that Kiki is aware of their relationship, that Kiki knows about the relationship. But if you'll recall from last episode 2, Kiki walked off with Ethan at that little bird funeral, and we don't actually know what happened between them. So there's a bit of a mystery in the air here about the fact that we know now Ethan is definitely either ghosting Simone or something else, is kind of how they leave it. Okay. Meanwhile, Devin is still bumbling around the Cliff House, trying to dig up dirt on Peter and Peter's ex-wife. She's convinced that Kiki did something nefarious to her just because of stuff that she's learned, bits of gossip that she's picked up. And obviously everyone gets really tight-lipped, clams up. They're all employees there. They have signed NDAs. I'm sure they're not allowed to talk about any of the stuff that they've seen or they know. And so somehow she runs into Peter, and this leads to her doing drugs with Peter himself, the person she was just investigating. And he leaves her alone to trip in the attic after he pretty much gives her nothing. So then we catch up with Kiki, who is in a state of panic because her suspicions about that Japanese chocolate that Peter gave her after his trip to Japan, air quotes, are confirmed. That overnight package of chocolates that she had Simone order, they've arrived. She confirms that the ribbon is totally different. And this is when we also learn that Kiki has signed a really bad prenup with Peter. So he's a billionaire. Obviously, he had her sign a prenup. And it pretty much says that if she leaves him, then she leaves penniless because she didn't have kids. If she had had children with him, then the prenup would provide for a lot more for her. But because she was unable to have children, she's kind of out of luck. And even her attorney is like, oh, you're a whole attorney and you signed this. What the heck were you thinking? She chalks it up to love. I think she probably thought, in this fictitious world, and I'm sure a lot of women think this, actually, a lot of women marrying wealthy men think, if I push back against the prenup at this stage, his hackles will rise. He will begin to suspect me of gold digging. And so let me be pliant and sweet and get married and have a couple kids, because they're not thinking about infertility, right? They're like, okay, well, the prenup provides for me if I have kids, so they're going to have their kids and it'll all be good. And then I think another subset of women believe that if they can get their way in and be married to this man and be a good wife to him, and I'm sure there's, I'm not saying that they don't love these people. I think they think if I can be a good wife to him, then we might be able to have a conversation about a postnup, which would basically, a postnup is like, I've proven myself. We've been married a couple years now, and it's clear that I'm not just here for the money, but now there is a lifestyle to which I've become accustomed, then it would be fair to revisit the prenup and provide a little bit more for me should the marriage end under certain terms. So Kiki don't got one of those. Okay. So she's like pissed at herself, but also getting angry and angry with Peter. So she tries to get intel out of Jose, because Jose's, the house manager guy. He sees everything. He's on the security cams. He knows what's going on, and he is Peter's right-hand man. And this is the first time we see Jose, the fangs come out. He's like, shuts her down completely. Like, I'm not giving you anything. I don't know anything. I don't work for you. She like threatens him. She's like, I'm going to fire you. He's like, I don't work for you. I work for Mr. Kell. I was like, oh, go Jose. I liked it for him. He's like, I work for Mr. Kell. You couldn't fire me because I'm not under contract with you. And even the last Mrs. Kell couldn't follow me. Catch that. I was like, you just better work knowing your contracts. So what is Kiki's genius idea in response to this? She sends Simone to track Peter and get her evidence that Peter is cheating, because as her attorney told her, that chocolate is not going to cover it as far as hardcore evidence of infidelity goes. She's going to need a little more. So she sends Simone on an ill-fated errand to track Peter and try to get evidence of his infidelity. Okay. Peter, meanwhile, Jose, I guess they have some shorthand speak for what he's about to do, because he beat it out of there in a rather old vehicle, like, one with the wood paneling, like a station wagon, or like I guess it's like an old style Jeep that has the wood paneling. And I actually really like those cars. They're really cool looking. But one of the things I thought about was like, that car is not really trackable. It's not one of these newfangled cars that, you just open up a little app on your phone and you can instantly know where people are. So Kiki sends Simone to track Peter, get her that evidence so she can divorce him on better financial terms. But what ends up happening, because Simone is no private eye, she's not a professional detective or any kind of professional at tracking people. So he instantly catches her and he confronts her, but he's not mad. So where we were like, uh-oh, I thought we were going to see a nasty side to Mr. Billionaire, he actually invites her to go quahogging with him. Now, this word is spelled Quahogging, like quahogging. And I actually looked it up, and there are people who say it like quag, like I think Family Guy. Are they from Quag? So there are people who say it like that. And then there are people who say quahogging. And he made it a point to say quahogging a lot. Anyway, there he confesses that he's not cheating on Michaela, on Kiki. He actually was visiting his kids and his grandson. He just had a grandson. His son just had a child, and he desired to be with him, which, not a business trip. Definitely a lie, but definitely not infidelity. And he's sad, and you can tell his estrangement from his kids makes him sad. And that's a strange thing. I'm going to divert for a second, because it's like, you're a billionaire. Why are you estranged from your kids? He blames Kiki. He says that basically after he left his wife, it's clear there was infidelity on his part, probably with Kiki, and that caused estrangement with his kids, which caused Kiki to put a stop to them coming around. I guess they were not kind to her, and so she put her foot down. And crazy enough, he chose Kiki over his kids. So I feel bad for him, but to a certain extent. Like, sir, you have all the money in the world, all the access in the world, and you have the power in this relationship. Like, if you want to see your kids, you can see your kids. I think it's that the kids were also not forgiving him for cheating on their mom and stuff like that. So, whatever reason, their relationship has finally thawed. And what happens is that, I guess for the first time in a long time, he's having a real conversation with someone, not a business associate, not an employee, not, personal assistant or someone like that. He's having a conversation with someone he clearly sees as more of an equal. I mean, after all, she is dating his friend, right? So he kisses her. It was definitely a him kissing her situation. And this shocked me. I actually gasped out loud because I didn't see it coming. But when I look back on all that was happening, I should have seen it coming, I guess, or it makes more sense. Simone, of course, pulls away and is mortified. She did not see that coming. And she did not go over there looking for that, right? She was sent there to track him. So she's mortified. She runs away, or bikes away. And he tries to smooth it over, and he also tries to ask her not to mention this to Kiki, and she assures him that she won't, which I think is a bad idea because Kiki is clearly someone who does a lot better when you just tell her the truth than when she catches you in a lie. So I feel that way too. I know a lot of people are like that. Like, I'd rather know the ugly truth than me catch you in a lie, which is a different level of trust erosion. So instead of telling Kiki what happened, Simone then buries her feelings, confusion, and all that in a renewed search for Ethan. She actually heads over to Ethan's house to try and figure out what's going on with him and why he's been ghosting her. And there, she notices, like, all his stuff is there, like things that she does not think he would travel without. And that raises her suspicions for foul play, that something happened to him. And it also raises our suspicions in the moment, right? So she calls over to Morgan, who is the boat captain that Devin was sleeping with. And when she calls Morgan, he's with Devin, and they both come over. And Devin accuses Kiki of foul play right away, right? Because now we have a missing Ethan, last seen with Kiki by Devin, and then we also have the suspicions or the rumors about Peter's first wife sort of disappearing, like no one's ever seen her again. That's weird. And then the weird bird stuff. Like, although, we can explain it away, the bird flew back trying to get to her, whatever. It just looked really weird and bloody and gross. So, yeah, immediately Devin's like, we know Kiki did something. Kiki definitely killed him. And Simone is quick to defend her boss. Like, she doesn't want to imagine that Kiki is even capable of doing such a thing. But in that moment, Kiki is also looking for Simone and tracks her to Ethan's house. So I guess she has Find My iPhone on with her friends. Honestly, do y'all have that feature on your phone? I have it on my phone, like, to find my other devices, like to be able to find my laptop, my iPad, stuff like that. I don't have it on so that friends and family can know where I am at all times. I feel like that's a weird thing to do. When we go on trips together, for example, when my girlfriends and I were in Cancun, we all turned on our locations or shared our locations with each other so that, if anything, we would at least be able to know where the phone was, just to keep track of each other. Things happen. Not because we thought Cancun was especially, like, the most dangerous place in the world. Not at all. It's just we're traveling internationally. Let's have some accountability, right? But to have your boss have that on is just weird. But anyway, they have a weird relationship. So she tries calling Simone, knowing that she's at Ethan's house. Simone doesn't answer, so she taps into Ethan's PA system. Why she has access to his security system to be able to make announcements, I don't know. But this is just Kiki being Kiki and exerting extreme power over everyone in her circle, right? And that's one of the things that makes her creepy and makes Devin not trust her. So she says that she's coming over because she knows Simone is over there. And then, so Simone and Devin and Morgan are, like, trying to hide. They're, like, panicking. What do we do? Where do we go? And then shortly after that, the door starts opening. And we think, damn, like, Kiki was right outside the door? No, actually, it's not Kiki. It's Ethan. Ethan has arrived with Simone's dad, Bruce, and Raymond, Devin's fling/supervisor employer person, in tow. And this is setting up a bit of a comic relief that will definitely, like, you'll definitely laugh at this if you haven't seen it already. I hope you have. But basically, Raymond is involuntarily being called Bruce's nurse. Like, and it's much to his chagrin. He's totally not interested in being called this guy's nurse. He's not his nurse. The only reason he's here is because Devin threatened him into going to take care of her dad and then didn't return. So anyway, amidst all this chaos of an unexpected and, in Simone's case, very much undesired reunion with her dad, Ethan clumsily proposes to Simone. And she's so shocked that she does not answer, and that's how the episode ends, with everyone kind of being surprised that Ethan finds himself on one knee. And everyone also surprised that Bruce showed up. Simone, most of all, you can see that she is horrified that some trauma is being awakened in her. And honestly, like, at the time, I'm, like, shuddering to think, like, what did this man do to her? That the very sight of him just throws her off completely. So we shall see. So that wraps up episode 3. Okay. I honestly thought I could do a decent job summarizing the last 3 episodes, but it's kind of not possible without leaving out a lot of the things that actually make the show really interesting, to me at least. It would be skeletonizing it too much for the sake of talking about the important points, but you would lose a lot of the flavor, if you will. So what did you guys think about the episode? What do you think about the series so far? I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on this. So do please comment. Leave your comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. We are going to continue bonus episode coverage of this series to its conclusion. So we still have episodes 4 and 5. I like these short little meetings, these short little group chats that we tap into to cover this, just because I don't want our main episodes to go on and on for hours and hours. I'm sure that very few of you would enjoy a 2-hour-long episode. I apologize that this took a little more time than I was anticipating to get it out, because originally when I planned to do the bonus episodes, a lot of stuff came up, a lot of stuff came out that I really also wanted to cover. And so I apologize for the lateness, and thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for our regularly scheduled episodes of the Pretty Passionate podcast. Stay tuned for the next bonus episode, which will conclude our coverage of Netflix's Sirens. So I'm going to try to do episodes 4 and 5 together in one bonus episode. Cool? Until next time, thank you so much for listening.